A Redditor named Joe Lavan has uncovered a conspiracy which I genuinely believe will come true. On this episode of Just the Tip, no, we're not bringing that back. That's not the name of the series. Anyway, we're going to be looking at the theory that the big bad guys of the Santa Claus miniseries are evil Christmas elves. More specifically, these two, Betty and Noel, as this Redditor has called them, murderous little monsters. I'm using this theory pretty much verbatim. I'm going to break it down as well as show the evidence. Some of it is from the original trailer, and then some of it is from the first 2 episodes that I've aired. By the time you're watching this, it's very likely that the 3rd episode is out, so let me know in the comments if any of this turns out to be true so far. But before we begin today's episode, please leave a like and consider subscribing. You can always unsubscribe at a later date if you don't like what I'm posting. No hard feelings here. Right then, showtime.
It's showtime, folks.
His first point is, why are Noel and Betty presented as a married couple? We've never seen that in Elf World before, and we've never really needed to. So is it a suggestion, a hint, that they're both working towards a common goal? They're being paired up for something that's going to happen in the later episodes. The next point is, Noel has been acting very suspicious, sus, if you will, throughout the first 2 episodes, to the point of irritating some viewers. More than any elf we've met, Noel has, in the words of Dr. Neil Miller, taken this Santa thing to an unhealthy level.
Safe to say you're taking the Santa thing to an unhealthy level. Here's my card.
He worships the snow Santa walks on, and seems more interested in him than in his wife Betty. And then this Redditor claims that Noel is a bit of a henpecked husband because he's pushed around by Betty at work. I'm not going to pass comments on that one.
Sorry, boss, but elves got an elf.
Yeah, they do.
At one point, Santa asks Noel why he smells like taffy. This is what I love about Redditors. They're so clever, aren't they? He's gone to get the dictionary definition of taffy, like he's Michael Scott writing a wedding speech, and he's found that one of the meanings of taffy is insincere flattery. So Santa is basically saying, I'm smelling some BS on you. Maybe he's aware that Noel is flattering him a bit too much, but it's Betty who displays more signs of a hidden darker side. She's the first female head elf we've seen, the first one we've been introduced to. I'm surprised Tim Allen hasn't rolled his eyes at that. Oh, women got better jobs? What next? You'll be able to vote? There's already a few hints of him being a bit right-wing, isn't there? I bet you any money he claims that the new North Pole is too woke. Now, Betty seems far more intense at her job than Bernard or Curtis ever were. Like Toy Santa before her, she's a stickler for rules. Given she can't be Santa herself, based on what she said in the first episode.
You know who would be a great Santa? You.
Elves can't be Santa.
Is she pushing herself to be the next best thing? And then the Redditor whacks out his Orwell, said the actor to the bishop. Like Orwell's Ministry of Truth, Betty seems intent on keeping the history of the past a hush-hush thing. So they're talking about when Mrs. Claus was asking what happened to the other Mrs. Claus, you know, when the first Santa Claus died. Well, the previous Santa Claus died. And Betty was like, oh, we don't talk about that. And we never got a straight answer.
So, can I ask you something about the previous Mrs. Claus?
I'm not allowed to discuss those who came before.
I've never understood the secrecy around here. Who am I going to tell?
There's another video coming up on Mrs. Claus that should be up in a few days. But why is she keeping it hush-hush? Why? Is she really not allowed to discuss who came before? Or is she lying?
Santa is Santa. Always and forever, a continuum, not an individual. Thus, there are no past Santas, and the same for Mrs. Claus.
Not only that, it's Betty's suggestion that Scott retires from being Santa. The trailer edited Betty's line, "It could be the end of Christmas," to seem like it was a concern about incoming Santa Simon Chosky's administration. Now we know that Simon's gonna be Santa Claus because of his initials. S and C, Santa Claus, Scott Calvin. They're gonna do a callback to the first movie. But instead of saying it about him, she said it within the first 2 episodes, when Scott's Santa magic started to fail him. So it's weird how they'd edit the trailer to make Hale look like a good guy, so we're not suspicious going in. But more alarming than all of that, the trailer revealed that someone at the North Pole will be bringing back Toy Santa's little nudge, the giant toy soldiers from Santa Claus 2. We see Carol in her normal clothes, having to fight one of them, probably upon her return to the North Pole. Who could have reactivated those soldiers while Scott Calvin is away? Only someone with knowledge of what happened at the North Pole on Christmas Eve 2002. And since Betty refuses to tell the current Santa anything about his predecessors, the culprit can't be Simon. Putting everything together, this Redditor believes that Betty and Noel are plotting to remove Scott Calvin from the role of Santa, either by straight up murdering him, like Mr. Sunday Movies joked about how the 4th movie will go.
Would we like to see another Santa Claus movie?
Or by tricking him into quitting. Scott's performance issues only started surfacing with Noel as his co-pilot. It's weird because Scott never needed a co-pilot before. He's perfectly capable of executing Christmas Eve runs solo. Is Noel secretly sabotaging him? Is he also pretending that the list of stops is much shorter than it really is? He's removing stops along Santa's run to get people to stop believing in Santa Claus and decrease Scott's magic.
Status report, Crouton? Santa's way slower than usual, but somehow they're ahead of schedule.
How is that possible?
I think that in reality Scott isn't losing his magic and he doesn't need to actually retire anytime soon. Rather, his 2 traitorous elves, Betty and Noel, are weaving an illusion of decline in order to convince him to quit. This may also explain why Scott eventually reaches out to ex-head elf Bernard for help. If it was simply Simon screwing up at the North Pole, why couldn't he just ask Betty? In another scene, Scott's son, Cal, asks him if he ever worries about a psycho, learning about the Santa Claus and setting out a trap for Scott's coat. Santa says that he has thought of this before. And it makes me think the people who make this series definitely watched Mr. Sunday Movies because he joked about all of this years ago. The only evidence I could find against this theory is that Noel and Betty appear to be helping a de-Santified Scott in the trailer. But we don't actually see what they're helping him accomplish or what the results of their help are. So I think it's very much in the air still. Rewatching the sleigh scenes with Scott and Noel through this lens, the Redditor claims that Noel is very clearly seeking opportunities to kill Scott at every turn. He urges Scott to perform dangerous stunts like buzzing the Statue of Liberty and loop-de-looping the St. Louis Arch. He asks to be allowed to follow Scott into people's houses instead of staying quietly in the sleigh. He pretends that Scott's fantastic jokes are funny, when we all know Tim Allen hasn't been funny since the 90s. And when Scott finally falls off a roof, what does Noel do? He stands on top of the roof and salutes his fallen boss. He waits for 15 minutes before doing anything to revive Scott. Are these the actions of a loyal elf dedicated to his master's safety? Another point the Redditor pointed out is, as children, Neil and Laura Miller had Christmases where they did not get their desired gifts from Santa. This caused them to lose their faith in him. What if the reason this happened was there was a traitorous elf like Noel who convinced his Santa that Neil and Laura were missing from their list of stops? He's manipulating everything, and he has been since before the first movie. Rewatch the first 2 episodes with this in mind and let me know what you think. I did, and it's really opened my eyes. I genuinely believe this theory is true. It's also helpful to listen to a certain song that was used in the trailer and decide if it has any deeper meaning. Right, so the bad news is I might not be able to play the song because of copyright, but I can sing a little bit of it. just as a backup, if you're hearing this, then the video got copyright striked and I've had to sing. Alright, let's go. Give me a beat. All I do is slay. Slaying all day. Slaying. I got. No. Oh, I've just had one of those moments where you just look at yourself and go, what am I doing? Just doing a little rap for the people on YouTube. That's fine. That's normal, innit? But anyway, sleigh. They're not talking about the sleigh pulled by reindeers. They're talking about the kind that killers do. Are they gonna kill Santa Claus?
I wanna be Santa Claus, so I'm gonna kill Santa Claus.
Noel delaying waking Santa up. Was he scared? Or are those the actions and murderous tactics of a traitor whose jam is, all I do is slay? Let me know in the comments what you thought of this theory, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe. You can always unsubscribe at a late date if you don't like what I'm posting, it's completely free. Let me know what you thought of this theory and the 2 episodes that are out so far. Well, it'll be 3 by the time you're watching this, most likely. Alright, I'll end it there. Bye, folks.